Sofia had never known how to stay still. At 30, she was a ski instructor in a small mountain town, and her whole life ran at full speed. She took the slopes before they opened, taught trembling kids not to fear the snow, and when evening fell, she kept moving, unable to stay in one place for more than 5 minutes. Stillness is for summer, she'd joke. The mountain was fast, white, endless, and she felt like part of that speed. It was the mountain, though, that stopped her cold. One December morning, on a slope she knew by heart, a beginner cut across her path. Sofia turned to avoid hitting him. Her ski caught in the hard-packed snow, and her legs stayed trapped while her body kept twisting. She heard the muffled crack beneath the sound of the wind. She fell, and this time she didn't spring back up like always. She lay there in the snow, staring at the gray sky, the cold creeping up her back, and a deep pain rising from her thigh. "Don't move." Someone shouted from above. "The rescue team is coming down." A femur fracture. At the town hospital, they told her straight, and the treatment was blunt. After surgery came the cast, a long one, the kind that runs from high on the thigh all the way down to the toes, with the knee fixed nearly straight. When the technician finished applying it, Sofia looked at that rigid white column her leg had become, and felt they'd taken away more than her mobility. "You'll be like this the whole season," the doctor said. "No snow, no slopes. The knee doesn't bend, so you'll have to relearn how to move around the house. Take it slow." The whole season. For Sofia, whose entire life was the ski season, those words sounded like a sentence. Her apartment was on a 3rd floor, right by the slopes, impossible to manage with a leg that wouldn't bend. So she had no choice but to do what she'd been avoiding for years: move for those weeks into the house of her grandmother, Amparo, down in the Valley Village. Amparo was 78, with a stone house, a fireplace, and a patient Sofia had never had. She took her in without any fuss, the downstairs bed already made, and broth on the fire. "You won't be running anywhere here," the grandmother said, half joking, half not. "So you'd better get comfortable." Sofia hated those first weeks. She hated depending on an old woman for everything. She hated not being able to climb the stone stairs without help. She hated, above all, the slowness of that house, where the clock seemed to run slower and the afternoon stretched endlessly by the fire, her casted leg propped up on a stool. But the slowness, little by little, stopped hurting. Since she couldn't do anything fast, Sofia began to look. To really look. She watched her grandmother knead the bread every morning, those flour-dusted hands moving without hurry and without pause. She watched the snow fall slowly past the window, afternoon after afternoon, with no need to race down it. She watched, for the first time in years, a whole sunset from beginning to end, without already thinking about the next thing. One afternoon, bored, she asked her grandmother to teach her to knit, just to do something with her hands. Amparo smiled like someone who'd been waiting a long time for that question. Sofia's first stitches were a disaster, crooked and too tight. But there was something hypnotic in the rhythm of the needles, something that forced her to be in a single place, in a single moment. For the first time in her life, stillness didn't weigh on her. The cast, meanwhile, filled up. The kids Sofia had taught to ski came up to the valley to sign it. One drew mountains with a sun. Her grandmother, in shaky, loving handwriting, wrote near the ankle, "Even the mountain rests in winter." The weeks by the fire became, without Sofia noticing, something close to happiness. She learned her grandmother's stories, the old ones, the ones she'd never had time to hear. She learned her bread recipe. She learned to knit a whole scarf, long and a little crooked, but hers. And she learned that the valley, that village she had always looked down on from above and in passing, was full of a warm life she had never stopped to see. The day they cut the cast off, the saw roared, and the two white halves opened. Inside was a thin, pale leg, the knee stiff from so many weeks held straight. Bending it will be hard, warned the physical therapist. Learning to bend and to trust that leg again takes time. And it was hard. But Sofia, the woman who never knew how to stay still, had learned exactly the opposite that winter. To wait. To trust. To go slow. In spring, she returned to the slopes. The snow was starting to melt. The season was ending, but she got to say goodbye to it with one last gentle run. Her legs still weak, but hers again. When she reached the bottom, she didn't rush off toward the next thing, the way she would have before. She stayed still for a moment, looking at the mountain. And then she went down to the valley, to her grandmother's house, with a scarf around her neck, long and a little crooked, that she had knitted herself by the fire. The winter that had forced her to slow down had given her something no slope ever could. It had taught her how to stay.